Well folks, it's Sunday and I'm going to try and cram this in, and hopefully that dipole video will go out before this. So back in the days of COVID, we used to always do a particular type of radio on a Sunday, and it was the Sierra Hotel 1 Tango Set Sunday, and there's a picture on my mug of the kind of GT858 that you would expect to have on Sierra Hotel 1 Tango Set Sunday. So, Alan, our mystery benefactor, has kindly sent this. You know what? It feels too heavy. Now this is going to be interesting because we're going to have to repaint this. Two more radios for you. This came 6 weeks ago. The relative fidelity 1000, the Gecol, will need a tune-up. It works. The Midland power's on, and some crystals. The crystals were off a marine set. So it looks like Alan's done a power lead on it, which is a really helpful thing. It's still got the stickers on the back, which is also a helpful thing because they're usually missing. They don't have, this sticker goes over where there would be the extension speaker socket and the PA socket. So the fact that the audio on these sets is 1.5 watts output, you're going to have a pretty whisper quiet car. So I think our electric car would be okay with it, but you're not going to be having a rattling diesel. It's not going to help you at all. So you always be aware. There's a lot of the GT858s, I think there's only Fidelity 1000, and it's still 50-50 on those as to whether they come with an extension speaker or not. And I remember a farmer ordering from us something like 25. He wanted the cheapest CB radios we could get. I'm going back to about 1990, and it was this, but as the Comtel, which was distributed through Altime. We had an account with Altime. Anyway, he had all these sets and then discovered he couldn't hear any of them. And that's what happens when you have the cheapest set. We got them all back and we had to modify the whole lot and fit an extension speaker socket. So that extra work cost him more than having a next model up, which would have had an extension speaker socket. So there's a false economy for you. But I like these sets, and I know a lot of the viewers out there also like them. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and they work great. You'll notice we're doing all our aerial experiments with a Binatone Route 66 because it works fine. If I change that to a Cybernet Beta 3000, I think we're doing one of those tomorrow, well, it's not going to really affect the results at all. But it might do if you're in a city. So, that said, I'm going to get a sheet and we will see if we can write some twaddle down. So this is one I've really been looking forward to. I don't know where my clipboard's gone. Oh, it's there. So I've done one church service today. I'm just waiting for my dinner to cook, so we've got 20 minutes to be starting this video. No idea what the date is, so we'll put the 27. Gecol. Put the other glasses on. GT858B. So the 868's the one with the 4 knobs. The Fidelity 1000 normally is used as the 848 chassis, but then I've sometimes seen them with a different board. So there are different versions of this. Some have got a filter for the transmit output, and some it's a different arrangement. We can actually put the serial number down on this because somebody might steal it. I might need to report it to the police. The recommended price on these I think was £49.99, but they could be had for £30-something. So I'm not going to I'm actually not going to run it through the test yet. We're going to open it up. But one of the reasons I can't connect it to an external speaker, for what, as I've been saying, so I can't do any SINAD readings without it connected up. It also feels heavier than it should, and I'm just wondering why that is, whether it's had a wrong speaker put in it, whether it's got 14 extra boards and it's going to be talking to the moon. Right, so we're going to power it up, but I've got the power supply on standby. It's not actually doing anything, so I'm not going to power it up. So I'm lying to you. So I'm hoping we can remove these with a scalpel, the escutcheons or the inlays or the decals, and mask this bit off, and then spray the whole thing silver. I may as well take all the screws out because both the lids are going to have to come off. Now, I don't know whether we've got any silver paint, but I know our local £1 shop does aerosols for £1 of silver paint, and we've had it before and it's been just the job for this kind of surround. There's a Maxcom 7E in this, I think it's in another box that was sent in by Alan, and that's painted the same colour. So that's novel, isn't it? A bright green Maxcom 7E. Right, I'm going to open it up. Well, why is it so heavy? Or have I just forgotten how heavy they are? Right, put the lid back on and we'll do the filling in of the form until we get to the receive ones, and then I will just have to connect up to that speaker. So we'll need a microphone for this, so we'll need our standard test mic. Drops the ceramic trimmer on the floor, which is the last thing I wanted to do. Oh, right, so we've got the great mic. In fact, I've got 2 Uniden mics up there. Time to sell one. Right, here goes. Picture in picture on. Switch the radio on. 13.8 volts. Comes on channel 19 and it's lit up. So channel 20. Now, these are a 3.5 watt radio. They're not a 4 watt radio. The service manual says, for the Fidelity 1000, that anything between 1.7 watts and 4 watts is acceptable and working normally. So I have seen one do 4 watts, not one of these, but something with this chassis, but it's normally going to be round about 3.2, a bit like a lot of new sets. Right, here goes. So I'll put it on the 3 watt scale. We must be on low power because it's tiny. Yeah. So right now it's doing 2.6. So that is working normally. Channel 40, 2.4. And channel 1, 2.7. So might be able to balance that better. On low power, we'll go back to channel 20. It's doing 190 milliwatts. Now that will come up. I don't recall they've got an adjustment for low power. So it's hoping it'd be nice if it was more than 300 milliwatts. And the transmit current on high power, Wow, 710 milliamps, that's efficient. You can use your 1 amp FKI charger. I digress, but the 1 amp charger from FKI, I mean, how many rigs actually draw under 1 amp? There aren't that many. At the moment, this is one of them. And it was a 1 amp CB power supply. Made in Britain. So we're not going to do the VCO unless it's actually faulty. The meter lamp's working. The potentiometers are working. The socket's working. There's one, it's the mic socket. The switch on the back's working. It doesn't have PA, and it doesn't have a mic with it. And when we key up, are we still in low power? No, we're not. When we key up, it's... Oh, don't say we've got a sticky meter. It says 1.2. And then we'll just do the frequency. I'll just put this bottom back on, because that could affect the frequency. Just go over to the frequency counter. $27,79105. Well, it isn't off frequency, but we'll pull it up. I won't do that till we've much further into it, because the test set's only been on 10 minutes and both of them may change. Deviation, if it's working today on the test set. Wallow. Well, if it is, it's 2.6, which is slightly too high. So to do the rest of it, we now got to connect a speaker up to the non-existent extension speaker socket. So using one of Alan's kindly donated crocodile clip leads, to save me pinching Mr. Chippies, we only need to touch the hot, the inner, the positive, when you do this, usually, because it's getting its earth return through the chassis, etc, etc. So we'll just do that, and we'll just move this over for now. Of course, there's always one, isn't there, that isn't getting an earth return through the chassis. So using another of Alan's kindly donated crocodile clip leads, well, that's not often that happens. So it looks like the later version with the interference trap down there. I'll probably have to check this one with the spectrum analyzer. So here we go. We'll put 2779,105, not 125 on the signal generator, so it's exactly what the frequency is of the radio. 27, I moved it for CPT, didn't I, the other day? That'll do. That's very close. And it's romping through, and it actually sounds right. Now, most of these sets are not set up right, because they're difficult to set up. The service manual method is cumbersome using a sweep generator. I have shown that before on the other test set behind me, but since we've been using the SINAD meter, I do that instead. So although SINAD meters were around even in the late 1960s, not everybody had them by a long way. And I know when I was at Nottingham Radio, I don't think we had one till the very late 80s, and that was on my bench. And when the boss, Mr. Smith, came in, he'd bought one from a radio rally, one of those SINAD 3s, and he says to me, I'm going to try one of these SINAD meters. Do you know how to hook it up? So I did that, and oh, he says, yeah, that makes it easier. So I've been doing it like this for years. I hadn't noticed. Right. So we'll put the SINAD meter on the screen. That's the camera the poltergeist has moved. Now I've moved it too far. Let's try about there. So for 12 dB SINAD, this is absolutely wow, even as it is. 0.32 microvolts. For 10 dB, apart from the deviation, I don't think this has been touched. It is 2. I'm going to put 2.65. Sorry, 0.265. 0.265. And for 20 dB, not all radios will do this because it's noise, that's all. 0.72. So that's really good as it is. So let's look where the squelch is. There's a funny squelch on this. It uses an AM detector to do it. So it's looking for the signal level changing on the channel you're on, but it looks at the AM content. I just find that bizarre, but anyway it works, and it's a bit gentler. Let's put the attenuator on the machine. And I've got the squelch on full on the radio. I want to turn this to 100 microvolts and it come in. Well, you know what? It never comes in. No, it never comes in. No. Not even at my maximum, which is the 300 millivolts. It still doesn't come in. So we'll turn the squelch. So it's a nil there. Having a squelch that never opens is really clever, isn't it? Not. Turn the signal generator to standby, set the squelch on radio to the threshold, switch the signal generator back on, straight in, it's coming in at 0.38 microvolts, so that is fine. Put an S9 on the meter, which is a 100 microvolt signal, and we're greeted with, I just can't tilt this up fully, we're greeted with, let's just try, S5 and a bit. So let's fiddle with my signal generator. It's greater than 300 millivolts. Right. So I'll have to take this off to pop it on frequency if I decide it needs it. See where it is now, see if it's changed. 79106, it's come up 0.1. I wouldn't bother if it was above 117. Right, let's see what we can do. So without me getting the manual out at this stage, we start there, that one, dum, bum, bum. We check that with the spectrum analyzer, which I'll switch on. You just don't know. Once you've come across a set that's 40 years old and been fiddled with, there's a chance that it's going to have been fiddled with inadvertently. Some people might think that's one of the cause for tuning up the transmitter when it isn't. Well, not for more power anyway. Right, put the main meter back on the inset picture. And into transmit we go. So keep it on the 3 watt scale. That's peak. That's peak. Little fraction there. If you ever come up with the GT858 chassis, you've got really, really low power, this resistor just there can go high or open circuit. You can end up with like half a watt on full power. So that's just something to watch. So we're at 2.6 and a bit. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, because I've got to get the manual out and look at the procedure. For one, there's 2 there. One doesn't have a core. It's not supposed to have a core. I think the other's done with the spectrum analyzer. I'm just going to check actually. I'm just going to check. Yeah, that doesn't affect transmit power. So we'll put the second harmonic in. Let's put in 54.5 or something like that. Frequency 54.5 megs. What I need is another crocodile clip, and he did send more than 2 for us to have a sniffer lead. Yeah, so I will still come back to this. Okay, so back onto this, and we've actually got no interference coming through. So I did an auto sweep. It's now at 55 megs. Key up, there's nothing coming through. So I haven't touched that. I'm not going to touch it. So good, that's set right. So that coil isn't shown in this service manual. So this is the later version, which has this extra, unless it's L9 as a fixed coil. I think it could be L9 as a fixed coil. So that covers our transmit other than deviation, which we'll do on the test set behind us because I can't trust this one. So what did we end up with power? 2.6 watts. Right, channel 40. Let's just go over to this meter. May as well switch the spectrum analyzer off. 2.5 watts. And channel 1. 2.55 watts. So that has balanced it out better, but no actual gain at all. But it's well within what it's supposed to do, so that's fine. And we shouldn't have any difficulty with scratchy corner. If you go much lower, it will make a difference. I think if we went under and at 2.1 watt, it may make a bit of a difference. But don't think that if you have 4 watts you get X range, and if you have 2 watts you get half of X. You don't. It doesn't work like that. you listen to a record playing on a amplifier that was 2 watt output and you change the amplifier to a 4 watt output, you'd be a little bit louder, but it wouldn't be twice as loud. So on low power, we're probably still stuck with quite a low power, and we are, yeah, it's 190 milliwatt, and the radio is drawing on full power 710 milliamps, exactly the same. Frequency, so it's now 3/4 of an hour later. Let's put that up on the screen. 27,79118. We won't be adjusting it. So I've done this several times, loads of times. The frequency adjusts when you take this. It's not easy to show you there, but when you take this screen plate off, which is a FAF, there's a trimmer just there, and that is the one that sets the frequency. But don't touch the other ones which adjust the VCO. So now we'll reset our signal generator to 27,79118. So I'm doing it exactly what this sets on so that we don't get it lopsided. I'll go to 119 because it probably will be by the time I've done it. So it's a really strange arrangement. This manual, is this the one with the stuffer sheet in it? No, it's not. Right, so we'll start with the front end. Not going to start with the detector. Got 2 coils there, which are both the detector. Get that capacitor. If that was a customer set, I might change that. Might end up changing it either as well because the squelch isn't right, is it? So it's very, very sensitive. We'll put the SINAD meter on. I need to get my white crocodile clip back, which I borrowed for the spectrum analyzer sniff. There we go. Let's turn the squelch down. So I'm going to turn it down to about 6 dB. We'll go through the front end. So as the needle swings to the left for a better reception, then I'll turn down the attenuator on the signal generator to make it worse again. So here we go. Absolutely spot on. I think we've gained a little bit there. Change tools. Just put a bit more signal on, see if it's one of the IF ones. And then we've got these detectors. I'll put the camera on the oscilloscope. That was spot on. I'll use the SINAD meter again for that one. Just check we've got the front end right. Yeah, I think that's where we've got it. I don't think there's going to be any change whatsoever. It was so marginal, any of that. So let's have a look. So, make sure there's plenty of volume. So the 12 dB, we have 0.24. Well, it has made a difference. For 10 dB, 0.21. It just goes to show that you can't do these things by ear. And bearing in mind, as a church organ builder and as a musician, you know, I'm good at tuning things by ear. Obviously not radios. And we've got the 20. 0.61. Now we need to deal with this squelch. So one of these is squelch, one of them is the S meter. So we'll turn squelch to threshold and see whether we can fiddle with it. Yeah, it's that one. So I'll put S9 now on the signal generator. Oh, it's spot on now. It's spot on. So I've adjusted the squelch just to prove it was the right preset. And now we've got 30 microvolts, put 100 on, squelch opens. So that's how I want it to be. So we'll turn the signal generator to standby, put the squelch on to threshold on the radio. And let's put the signal generators back on and see when the signal comes in. This comes straight in. It's about 0.7. So it's now less sensitive, but it's now going to actually open when you turn the squelch. So what else have we got to do? Set the S meter. So I want an S9 signal, which is 100 microvolts, and I want that now to read 9. So it's the lower preset. There we go. And on transmit, it's psychological, so we do still set it for 4. Like these new sets that put a full set of bars on, even if you've got the output transistor missing. So we'll key it up, and I want that to read 4, so we want it, well really, I mean, to be fair, it should be in the centre of the red zone, but anyway, we'll set it to about 4. I can't see the preset. There we go. So I've set it to 4. Good. It's not often I don't have to take the lid off. Just check the frequency once again. Yeah, 79118, that's absolutely fine. There should be 125, they drop with age, but you know, this is so close. You can't adjust low power. I just need to put this on the other test set behind me to get the deviation reading, and then we'll slot it back together. So I'll disconnect the speaker from my test gear. I'm really surprised that I was able to improve the receiver, because whoever set that knew what they were doing. Right. We'll turn that test set off. Put the squelch on. I'll just move myself around to the set behind me. So it was 2.6 it needed to come down a tad on our first meter. Let's have a look at the one behind. Well, it's a little bit high, yes. I think the meter was being true today. It's reading 2.7 on this one. There we are, 2.2. It says on the frequency counter behind me 2779124. There's always going to be a discrepancy between them. It really doesn't matter. Would if we were doing space things, I'm sure. Right, so that was correct on this occasion. 2.2 to 2.5 microvolts. Now 400 microvolts. The speaker's okay. So it's X Allen, and there's a box number. Ah, we didn't book that one in. Right, we'll put some screws in it. Oh, no. No, we've got to play it up front, haven't we, on this? I'll pause the video and take the front off. Right, having got the front off, I've been able to push out the filter for the display. This one should be quite easy because you've got holes on the back which I can put some pressure on. Hopefully the glue will fail. Otherwise I might end up putting it in the dishwasher first in a hope to loosen the glue. I think I'm going to have to do that because this one is so difficult to get off. Once that's off, the whole thing can just be sprayed silver without masking anything off. So I'm going to put that in the dishwasher. It'll probably melt. Right, so about 45 minutes later it's here, and now it should be shall we eased by the dishwasher. So I'll again try and push this out. This time, I don't want to bend that bit. I need to push something underneath it. Excellent. And you know what? There's no paint on these. So it makes me wonder whether that's what was done before. Anyway, each to their own. Now to get this one out. Now that is going to be fun. I might be best off with a scalpel. I wish I'd got a hole in the back of that. Well, I'm going to have to go up to Mr. Chippy's bench for that one. Okay, so we've sprayed the bezel, took all the escutcheons off, and put the thing through the dishwasher because of trying to ease the glue on those inlays, and put the knobs in the dishwasher at the same time. So it now looks how it should do. 40-year-old set. I could have rubbed down some of this, but I didn't. Can't plug the extension speaker in. We can switch it on and see what we can hear. One Anna Roger. Nineteen a Roger. Right, we'll do an on-the-air test later on with Mr. Chippy. There you have it, Gecol GT858. Not really very far out, but bit of TLC and redoing that front panel, and it looks a bit smarter. Thanks for watching.